Secret tapes show Jay-Z running Diddy's wild parties with famous TS. You ever notice how Jay-Z always seemed untouchable? Like no matter what chaos was flying around in the industry, scandals, lawsuits, exposés, his name just stayed clean. The man went from the Marcy projects to champagne with presidents, and the image was flawless. But now there's a whisper in the air, and it's getting louder. And it isn't coming from the blogs or the tabloids, it's coming from inside the machine. People are finally starting to ask the one question that's been floating just out of reach. What if Jay wasn't just watching the storm from his penthouse, but helping stir it? See, while the headlines were all focused on Diddy and the mountain of lawsuits crashing down on him, coercion, trafficking, secret tapes, federal raids, Jay-Z stayed oddly invisible. Not one court appearance. Not one major statement. Just smiling for the cameras with Beyoncé at the Mufasa premiere like the walls weren't closing in. But behind the scenes, things aren't looking so royal. According to industry whisperers, Jay-Z didn't just attend those infamous parties with Diddy, he hosted them. Some even say he orchestrated them, down to the guests, the contracts, and the cameras. Yeah, cameras. Because these weren't your average Hollywood after-parties with drunk A-listers and overpriced champagne. These were underground chessboards where power got traded, secrets got sold, and silence was currency. Let me paint the picture. Limousines rolling up at night. Guests handing over their phones at the gate. No red carpet. No flashing lights. Just an elevator ride down. Way down. Some say these mansions had hidden levels, like actual basements 2 floors below ground. Red lights humming through concrete halls. NDAs thicker than a Netflix script. And inside, things even bodyguards wouldn't talk about directly. Security contractors claimed they were trained to reroute guests at a moment's notice if someone got too wild. Some said there were code words, panic rooms, even encrypted comms for when high-value guests needed to be protected or removed. The kind of stuff you usually hear in conspiracy videos, until a federal raid actually confirms half of it. Then came the lawsuit, a federal filing naming Jay-Z directly, accused of assaulting a young woman at an MTV after-party in 2000, the exact same party Diddy was at. The exact same party that's been whispered about for years. That crack in Jay's armor just became a fracture. And now people are starting to connect dots that have been hidden in plain sight. And guess who's leading the charge? 50 Cent. You might think he's just trolling, posting memes, clowning Jay on Instagram, dropping AI videos of Jay and Diddy getting arrested. But nah, 50 ain't playing around this time. He's rolling out something bigger, a full documentary series. And word is, it's got teeth. According to people close to the project, this doc isn't just focused on Diddy. It's got footage, interviews, receipts, stuff that allegedly shows Jay-Z wasn't some innocent bystander. That he was in the room. And not just in the room, but maybe holding the keys. There's even talk that 50's got access to surveillance footage from some of those parties. Footage that shows recognizable faces, private jets, side entrances, whole operation. Insiders say he's been collecting this stuff for years, just waiting for the perfect moment to unleash it. And with Diddy crumbling, that moment might be now. Because what's scarier than a crime? A pattern. And what's scarier than a pattern? A system. Jay-Z built his empire in the shadows of one, and now someone's about to flip the switch and flood those shadows with light. What really rattles people isn't the idea that celebrities party hard. It's the whispers that some of those parties weren't parties at all, they were setups. Controlled environments where things were recorded, not remembered. Where silence wasn't just expected, it was enforced. And when you start peeling that layer back, the picture that forms around Jay-Z stops looking like a mogul's legacy and starts looking like something way darker. Insiders say these weren't chaotic, spur-of-the-moment nights, they were operations. Security firms were hired not just to protect, but to monitor. Guests allegedly signed NDAs that had teeth, real legal threats, not the usual PR fluff. There were teams trained to clean up before the sun came up. Bones were collected. Cameras pointed in, not out. There was even talk about an internal alert system. Some called it the Red Room Code, used when certain VIPs needed to be shielded or rerouted. That's not a party. That's protocol. And Jay-Z. His name keeps circling back, not as a one-time guest, but as someone with access, someone who allegedly helped organize, helped bankroll, maybe even helped record. There's talk from a former stylist tied to Roc Nation who claimed she once overheard security discussing a basement-level panic room under an estate used for industry events. Another source claims smart home systems were wiped remotely before and after these events to erase any digital footprint. That's not paranoia, that's preparation. Then there's the lawsuit tied to that infamous 2000 MTV afterparty. The one where a young woman claimed she was drugged, signed an NDA under pressure, and left the event shaken and silenced. Jay-Z and Diddy were both there, and the complaint doesn't read like someone fishing for a payout. It describes chilling details, down to a female celebrity watching in silence while it all unfolded. Jay-Z's lawyers called it stupid, but victims rarely risk this kind of heat without some fire behind them. Still, what's maybe most unsettling isn't what's in court, it's what's not. The silence. The way some journalists suddenly stop digging. The way certain media outlets never mention Jay-Z's name, even when it's sitting right there in the filing. That kind of silence doesn't come naturally. It's manufactured, protected, controlled. Which brings us to Beyoncé. Because if Jay-Z's shield has a secret weapon, it's her. She's been the buffer, the distraction, the visual firewall. While whispers circle her husband, she's out here holding hands with Blue Ivy, posing on red carpets, performing for sold-out crowds. But behind the scenes, it's not all picture perfect. Multiple sources have suggested Beyoncé has been working with crisis PR experts, not just for image maintenance, but for future-proofing. One insider even hinted she's been moving assets quietly, transferring business interests, setting up trusts. She's smart. She knows what happens when the dam breaks. And there's growing speculation that she's preparing for that scenario. During the Hollywood divorce, an attorney told reporters, off the record, of course, that a major A-lister is gathering legal documents and contingency plans in the event of high exposure. No names were mentioned, but people can read between the lines, especially when those lines start pointing toward the Carters. And 50 Cent. His not letting up. His posted, deleted, reposted, hinted. But his next move is already in motion. The Netflix docuseries Did He Do It? Isn't just headlines. It's hard files, testimonies, surveillance logs, footage. And Jay-Z's name, insiders claim, isn't an afterthought, it's a chapter. This isn't just industry gossip anymore. It's a fuse. Depending on what footage drops, and whose name gets confirmed on those tapes, we might not be watching the fall of an icon. We might be witnessing the unmasking of an entire empire. Federal agents raiding Diddy's properties wasn't just a turning point. It was a warning shot. They weren't looking for headlines. They were looking for evidence. And what they reportedly found sent chills through every luxury hallway tied to these underground gatherings. Hidden drives, encrypted folders, safes full of NDAs, memory cards with no labels, an entire digital archive that investigators say looked more like a blackmail library than a celebrity's party stash. Among the items listed in internal reports, thousands of bottles of lubricant, red lighting rigs, and footage allegedly time-stamped, labeled by room, and cross-checked with private jet logs. It wasn't some messy pile of junk. It was organized, catalogued, intentional. And somewhere inside that mess, multiple insiders believe Jay-Z's name surfaced. Not just as a guest, but as a key figure. Maybe the financier, maybe the gatekeeper, maybe the one who made sure it all ran without interruption. Now, federal investigators are working quietly. They're not leaking much, but the pattern is clear. Subpoenas are reportedly going out to logistics companies, catering firms, private security contractors, all tied to events that were supposedly cleaned up before sunrise. Some of those companies have links to Roc Nation, and some are allegedly shell entities created to bankroll venues and mask where the money's coming from. There's also chatter that encrypted messages pulled from confiscated phones and servers are being decrypted by digital forensics teams. The goal? To see who was talking to whom, and what was said before and after those nights. And that's where the paranoia really kicks in. Because if names start getting tied to footage, real, time-stamped, camera-angled footage, the fallout won't stop with Diddy and Jay-Z. People in the industry are scared. Not scared of getting caught on tape doing drugs or hooking up. Scared of what those tapes might show about how the system worked. How fame was used like bait, how power was traded, how silence was bought. This isn't just a scandal. It's infrastructure, a network of leverage, control, and fear. And Jay-Z, the man who always stayed clean, is now being whispered about as the one who held the whole thing together. There's even a rumor, completely unconfirmed but persistent, that one of the tech specialists tied to Rock Nation confessed to being paid to wipe security systems before and after events. Not erase footage, wipe systems. Start fresh. No trace. That's not something you do if the only thing going down is champagne and karaoke. And still, 50 Cent hasn't blinked. His docuseries is reportedly done, waiting for timing, maybe legal clearance, maybe the last piece of the puzzle to drop. People close to the production say this isn't just petty beef, it's strategic exposure. They claim 50 saw something that changed his entire view of the game, that he went from mocking to mission mode. And when it drops, Jay-Z's empire, music, fashion, sports, politics, could all be pulled into the spotlight he's worked so hard to avoid. Beyoncé, according to close sources, is watching the storm with gritted teeth. She's moved money. She's secured assets. Some say she's even taken steps to shield her kids from what's coming. Not because she knows exactly what Jay did, but because she knows what he's tied to. And she knows this time her brand might not be enough to block the blowback. Because if even a fraction of what's whispered is real, if Jay-Z was truly part of these rooms, these events, these systems, then we're not talking about the fall of a rapper. We're talking about the collapse of an illusion. The kind of fall that shakes the ground beneath every red carpet, every boardroom, every velvet curtain charity gala. The kind of fall that doesn't stop at music but drags down everything tied to it. And the scary